I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I grew up in a family where traditions weren't just holiday extras, they were the heartbeat of our home. My parents made every event, from birthdays to small Sunday dinners, feel like something you carried with you forever. We had quirky rituals like hand-decorated place cards at Thanksgiving, homemade ornaments at Christmas, and a braided bread at Easter that my grandmother passed down the recipe for. Those little things shaped me. So when I got married to Adam, who is now 31, I imagined bringing that same warmth into our own home. At first, his family seemed fine, reserved, a little distant maybe, but polite. I assumed it was just a difference in how families showed affection. The first big test was Thanksgiving. I decided to host, and I went all out: roast turkey, family recipes, handwritten place cards at each seat with a personal touch. When everyone sat down, Adam's sister laughed and asked if I was playing house. I smiled and brushed it off, but the comment stung. Adam stayed quiet, busying himself with pouring drinks, and I told myself it was just a slip. Christmas came next. In my family, we always exchanged small, meaningful ornaments, something that marked the year, like a trip or an inside joke. I set up a little table where everyone could trade theirs. Adam's mother rolled her eyes and called them cheap trinkets, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Some relatives chuckled awkwardly and moved on. Later that night, I told Adam how hurt I was. He shrugged and told me to stop trying so hard. "They just don't care about that stuff," he said. When Easter rolled around, I thought maybe a food tradition would be safer. I baked the braided bread that had been on my family's table for generations. Adam's father sliced into it and joked it was fancy bread for no reason. His mother smirked, and his sister chimed in about store-bought rolls being good enough for everyone else. I smiled politely, but inside I felt the familiar ache. Every effort was brushed off, not because the idea was silly, but because I cared enough to bring it forward. That's what I started to notice. They weren't laughing at the traditions themselves. They were mocking me for putting value on them. It became a pattern. Each gathering ended the same way. Me trying to introduce something heartfelt, them treating it like a performance to poke fun at. I started to pay attention, to see how intentional it was. The more personal the tradition, the harder they laughed. On our first wedding anniversary, I lit candles around the table. In my family, you light one for each year together, a quiet ritual of gratitude. As I leaned over to light the second candle, Adam's sister blew it out, laughing as if it was a harmless prank. The table laughed with her. I felt the air leave the room, but Adam just shrugged. He called his family lighthearted and told me not to take things so seriously. That was his excuse every time. But it wasn't harmless, it was a choice. And I started to feel a shift in myself. Instead of wondering how to avoid their mockery, I began thinking of ways to confront it without a fight. Not yelling, not shutting down, but showing them something they couldn't laugh off without making themselves look bad. I thought back to the nights in my parents' house where laughter and warmth weren't forced. They just happened because everyone knew the traditions meant something. Those were the moments that stuck with me, that shaped me, and I wanted to carry them forward. The more I replayed the comments, the smirk about cheap trinkets, the jab about playing house, the candle snuffed out mid-ritual, the clearer it became. They weren't just uninterested, they wanted to remind me that I didn't belong in their circle, that my contributions were ornamental at best. I decided I wouldn't let them dictate how I celebrated. If they wanted to roll their eyes, so be it. But I wasn't going to give up the parts of me that mattered. I grew more deliberate, thinking about the next holiday season, not as a chance to fit in, but as a stage where their behavior could reveal itself.